All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to the utter chaos and dong show that is owning Jeeps. We are right in the thick of it. So from the last couple episodes, revolving all around the transmission in the LJ. It failed, obviously. So good news is the new one came. So I've got all the parts and pieces. I actually went around today and went to the hardware store and the parts store and got everything. So we'll quickly do our little run around here and I'll show you everything that we've got and what the plan is. And then we're going to dig right into it. The day is almost over. I've been slacking off. Went and had some seafood with a really good friend down in Pier 6 in San Leon, Texas, which is about an hour away from where I live. And it was a great, right on the water. It was beautiful. It's like, I don't know, 29 degrees Celsius. So, anywho's, let's have a look around and we'll get cracking. New transmissions here. Obviously, it doesn't come with any of the sensors. So I got to move those over from the other transmission. But everything else is here. I had it out of the box. It looks right. It is a 42 RLE. I have to get the tail shaft off of the other transmission to put on. I have the tail shaft housing. I need to pound out that seal and put in the new seal. So this transmission came with all kinds of goodies. I got new bolts for the flex plate to the torque converter and a couple other various little dips and drabs. So those are all good. And then, yeah, dipstick hole. I've got the dipstick and all that kind of stuff. So everything's good. And it also comes with a full set of an installation guide. So everything that you need to do, and a warranty is dependent on this, apparently, following all these steps. So it's got, you know, the fluid fill procedure and when you get it in, how to fill it, how to run it, putting it through the gears, blah, blah, blah. So we're actually going to follow that. I've read it a couple of times and it's pretty straightforward. So as far as that goes, we're all good. I also got, in case you didn't see, is the Pensoil. So I ordered this right from the place where I got the transmission. This is the full synthetic ATF plus 4, which is what that transmission takes. Honestly, from the cost perspective, it wasn't that much more expensive per quart to get them to just package it and ship it with the transmission. I think they actually had a deal with it. So it worked out really, really good. So I've got enough to fill it and some extra. And then the old transmission. So everything is off. I managed to get the tail shaft off. I don't want to put that back on, but you can see I had a little fun with my little slide hammer and a 10mm bolt and a zip tie. I managed to get that to grab enough to slide hammer it off and without damaging anything. So I have to put that piece on the new transmission. I got to get the sensors out. I'm going to meter these and make sure that they're still good. You know, I just got to start moving parts and pieces over. Skid plate, I took it to the spa and washed it all off, and now I'm just getting ready to give it a mani and pedi, i.e. knock some of that rust off, that surface rust, and give it a nice fresh coat of paint. There's still some oily stuff on it, but whatever. The underside is pretty beat up. So while I've got it all off, I might as well brushing it up. So I'm going to hit that with some paint. I'm going to do that tonight, give it a chance to dry. And then, excuse the chaos, I bought also a gauge. So this is a transmission temp gauge. I think this is a glow shift. Yep, it's a glow shift. So this comes with everything I need, including the wiring harness and all that sort of stuff. And then what I'm going to show you the piece de resistance here in 1 second. I just got to go get it. Okay. So here's what I had to go get because I was leak testing it with a drawdown test. This is the new transmission pan that I ordered. So this is an aftermarket one. It's a Dorman. Pretty beefy. The reason why I got it is because it's got a drain plug. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves with these transmissions. When you got to service them every 60,000 miles or so, you got to drain the fluid out, and it is cumbersome. So I went with one with a drain plug. Now, I contemplated drilling in a second bung for the temperature sensor, but what I did is I used the drain plug hole to put in a temperature sensor. So then when I need to drain it, I can just disconnect this, spin this out, and drain it. The reason why I went with that temperature sensor is because the old transmission was cooked. Like, I mean, it had gotten hot. And I didn't throw a check engine light, like I mentioned. So I just want this extra peace of mind, these belt and suspenders, because these transmissions, like I said, are not inexpensive. So this is going to give me that little extra bit I need. Now, I'm going to put this on after I put the transmission in the Jeep. And there's the reason is there's still transmission fluid in this one, and I don't have, you know, all the fancy stuff to put it up and suspend it and drain it and do all. It's easier to do it while I'm laying on the ground under the Jeep. And also I need to check the clearance of the skid plate with this temperature sensor. I know it's tight, but I can't remember how tight it actually was and where this sits in relation to the transmission skid plate that's actually there that goes on the belly pan. So I'm just going to do it when it's all under there. That way, you know, it's the last final step and I can zip it all in. So I got a bunch of little odds and ends that we're going to be using, but that's kind of where we're at. So let's get digging into this thing because it's not getting any earlier. All right. I'm going to get the tail shaft on, get this tail piece, and then I'm going to swap the sensors, and then I'll start cleaning up a mess and see if we can get this thing hung tonight. All right, before we get too far putting this transmission back in, one thing I didn't do when I took it out was flush the cooling lines. And that's something that obviously we want to do before we put the new one in and contaminate it. It's kind of like taking a shower and then putting on dirty underwear again. Kind of defeats the purpose. So a couple ways that we can do this with the stuff that I have. So this stuff is some I picked up at a local parts store. You can get it on Amazon. It's Cooler Clean, and it comes in a ready can with a little nozzle, everything all ready to go. Just a matter of hooking it in and shooting. They say one can is good for, you know, I don't know for how much. So I ended up buying 2 cans because the transmission cooler lines come kind of halfway down the vehicle, and I want to make sure that I get that all flushed out really, really good. Like we all discovered, that transmission was burnt pretty bad. So that's one way. And then the other way is with just some basic mineral spirits. This is a really good degreaser. The only issue with using this is it's not in like a pressurized can. So you kind of have to funnel it in and then use compressed air to blow it out. And I think for what I'm trying to do, I have the compressor and everything to do it, but I think it'll just be a little bit tedious. So, but this is another option. I know some people have loaded into like a weed sprayer, pressured it up real good, and then just stuffed the nozzle into a hose and did it that way. You know, and I did make these up in advance. These fittings here are actually out of the transmission itself. These are 1/2 inch by, I don't know, 3/8 bushings. And then I just went to the local hardware store and picked up these are actually for underground sprinklers, connectors. And then I bought some 7/16 tubing. And these hose barbs on the sprinklers just fit right into it, perfectly nice and snug. So I can screw the transmission cooling lines into their native fittings and then use these. I'm hoping that these hose ends just fit into this. They might be too big. They are. But I think we can make that work. So it'll just fit in there like that and kind of away we go. So I'm going to get this set up here, and then I'll take you along for the ride, and we'll see if we can give this thing a nice shower. All right, so back underneath. This, I don't know how bad that glare is. This, the bottom line off the transmission is the supply. That's the hot side. And then the top side here is the return. So this is the cold side. So these both go to the radiator, to the transmission cooler. That's part of the bottom section. And obviously keeping the transmission cold. So What I can do with these is using the native fittings. Should be able to just screw these back on. I'm going to lose a little bit of this liquid, but it's not a big deal. I don't have any wrenches down here with me, but that's fine. You get the idea. So again, these bushings screw right into the transmission. So this works out really, really good. And I can keep this little contraption for later when I do the first service on the transmission. I'm sure I'll find a use for them. Okay, so again, this is kind of open to interpretation. Because this is the natural flow path as the supply and return, I think I might shoot it backwards. And the only reason why I would do that is just if there's any going against the grain, so to speak, I guess has a potential to break some stuff up. I'm going to eventually do it both ways, so it really doesn't matter, but we'll start with this path. And I should be able to just pop that off and away we go. Put this into a bucket. Don't spray it all over the floor. And away we go. Oh, already off to a bad start. Okay, so we're just going to keep shooting that in there until it starts coming out clear, which obviously looking at it looks like it does. I'm just going to finish off the rest of this can. Make sure that we get it out really good. This 7/16 hose is too big for the native fitting that comes on this. And then obviously with the hex head, it doesn't seal very good, but just holding a rag around it, I managed to get it to seal half decent. So that's one side definitely in, and it's coming out nice and clear. So not too worried about that. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side, and then I'll show you kind of what the fluid looks like after. So I want to make sure that I get this flushed really good. So now that I got that done, I'm just going to take some compressed air here and just blow through the lines. Nice and gentle. Still see a lot of stuff still came out there. Obviously the idea of this is to try and get all that degreaser out. I think what I'm going to try and do is put a little bit of transmission fluid in here. So a little funnel. See if I can do that and help rinse some of that out. Okay. So I don't know if this is going to work or not. We'll try and put this in. I think I can get it to go. So this is ATF plus 4, which is the transmission fluid that this particular one takes. It's just a good idea to throw a little bit through there just to help wash some of that solvent out so it doesn't mix in with the new transmission fluid. When you spend this kind of money, I don't know. I just want to take the extra step, I guess. I don't think it's going to hurt. Very gently do this. I don't want to spray this all over my face. Okay, there it comes. Okay, so after the bath, that's pretty much everything that came out. I did lose a little bit of it, but that gives you the idea. Just to flush it all out and then do a little rinse with transmission fluid after, just to get all that solvent out of the line. So I'm pretty happy with it, and that'll do it. Now we can just put the transmission in. Okay, so I got the tail shaft on, and this was just super, easy. When I use a slide hammer, obviously this is a 10mm bolt by 1.5 threads. And what I did is I just threaded a nut in, put that clamp on, zip tied it, and then just pounded it, and it'll pull off. I've seen other guys do, different apparatuses to thread and pull, whatever. Just when you put it on the new transmission, really all it takes is you just have to push it and give it a little tap. Don't hit this with a dead blow or any sort of a hammer. There is a lock nut on this and it's pretty secure, but sending vibration through there with all those snap rings and clutch plates and this and that, just don't. Literally all you have to do is give it a little love tap. So I'm going to clean this up now. I got to go get a razor blade, get all this old RTV off, clean up this face, and then slip it back on. So let's work on that now. Okay, so I just took the speed sensor out of the old transmission, and I don't know if it's going to focus, but you can see all these metal filings all around it. So, oh yeah, and I bought a new toy. Remember I said on the last episode, I wish I would have had that? Well, I bit the bullet. Milwaukee ratchet. It's a pretty heavy duty one. So I'm just going to use the heck out of this thing, putting this transmission in. So I'm not fighting with every size wrench. I just take a socket set down with me and kind of be done with it. But so far it works fantastic. I just wish there was a reverse forward button like the drills have. Okay, I've got the other sensors loose here. I want to kind of show you these. So you'll notice these two sensors, and I don't know which one does which, but this is at the front of the transmission, this one's at the back. You can see this one's got a nipple on it and this one doesn't. So it's important not to get these mixed around. Okay, I'm just gonna have a quick look at that other transmission, make sure I've got everything. It looks right. And then I'm gonna get all this mess cleaned up and we're gonna slide this thing under the Jeep. And I think I have a way to get this in by myself. Because keep in mind, I don't have the height clearance to get the transmission under the Jeep while it's on the jack. So this is gonna take some out of the box thinking, but I think I have a plan. All right, let's see if we can do this. So I got like a little saddle system rigged up. The idea is obviously to lift this up kind of one end at a time without dropping it. Just high enough to get the jack underneath it. There we go. Ooh. Okay, before I get too far along, there's these two hold down straps. Hopefully you can see those. These hold the torque converter in during shipping, so I got to get these out. I waited to take them out just so that this didn't fall or whatever while I was monkeying around. All right, now to work on getting this lined up. So I don't want to mangle these. Everything's all lined up now. It's just a matter of getting kind of this into place. But I think what I want to do is dress up some of this wire that has to clip onto the top of the transmission before I get too far into this. I know some of these clips clip in up here, and I should have looked before I got this transmission under here. I think I just found one. Okay, so now let's see if we can jack this up into place. So once again, I'm trying to get this dowel into that hole, and I'm darn close. The alignment is a little bit off, but I do not have a tilt. So what I'm battling now is the transmission is rotated, just a tiny, like a sliver. I wonder if I can get this strap off and just wedge something under here just to turn it that tiny bit. There we go. Ha ha! Success. Really, it was just a matter of getting the one side kind of in and started getting the tilt right. And what I did is I just got that dowel in, and then I just jacked the transmission up ever so slightly just to get that dowel wiggled in. And then I managed to get that bolt threaded in on that side without cross-threading it. And then it was just a matter of working over to this side to get that dowel lined up. Loosening the strap obviously let the transmission drop a little bit. So when I cinched it, it must have rolled it. So now it's all in. So once I got that sorted out, got the other bolt in, and now she's all good. So now we're on kind of the home stretch here. Well, not really. All right, so it's gone ahead and become a new day. The sun's just coming up, so it's a perfect day to kind of get this knocked out. All I did last night was I painted the skid plate and just got these two bolts cinched in and reinforced the transmission to leave it overnight in case the jack slipped. But that was pretty much it, and then cleaned up a bunch of mess. So What I did already is I got these two bolts started in the flex plate torque converter. Now these are the new bolts that they shipped, and they already have blue Loctite on them. They come pre-loaded. I just got two of these finger tight for now. I just wanted to make sure that I got everything aligned before I started kind of moving, just in case something does move. You probably saw it in the little bit I did last night. I rotated the torque converter to get it to mostly line up. So that is done. Everything's kind of in now. So what I'm going to do now is just start working around. I'm going to save these to torque until last. So I'm going to leave the dust cover off and everything just so I remember. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this side and just work around. I'm not going to videotape a lot of this because you watched me kind of do it in the last video when I took it all apart. I'll really concentrate on the shift linkage and getting these cooler lines hooked up. And I'll kind of detail all that, getting that side of the transmission done. This side is just tedious. It's getting the dipstick tube in, the vent tube on, the speed sensor, and a couple other little things over on this side. So I'm just going to work on that now. Here's what I'm fighting with now. The T12s that go up on the very top of the bell housing, I showed you those on the last video. But now I have to get the brackets. One of them is the transmission dip tube bracket support goes into this. And you can see on this camera view, it's way back up there. So what I've got is my extensions, and I got the bolt on the end of it. I got it almost lined up, but as you can imagine, it's super cumbersome. Okay. There we go. Okay, I managed to get that cowl bolt all in. Now I got to do the other side, and it's got a bracket on it too. So now this one has a couple of cable brackets on it, and this should just zip in pretty straightforward, I hope. So this is one that I know gets tied to there. This is the O2 sensor that I just unplugged again. But this one gets tied to there. So I can work on that, get it up out of the way. So in anticipation, I bought a bunch of these zip tie connectors from Amazon. Made in China. Glad I bought those a couple weeks ago, because otherwise I'd paid, what, 10% more? So this should just snap in and then loop around itself. And just like that. Okay. One crisis averted. Okay, let's work on these cooler lines now. Okay, now one thing to note too on these plugs is they thread in pretty far. And they are not an NPT thread. And the difference is an NPT thread tapers. And this is like a plug style. So you don't need to put thread sealant on these, is what I'm getting at. They'll just thread right in and they'll self-seal. If you put goop on there, it's just going to create a mess. So you don't need to. I'm going to go clean up these threads and get these ready to put in. Okay, just using a little brass brush. Got all these threads all cleaned up. The other part of this too is you don't want to jam any dirt or anything in there. Okay, so I'm going to get that shift link mounted. And I showed this taking it apart, but I'm going to put it back on because this is the section that I didn't show and how this goes onto the shift lever. So what I want to do is just get this mounted right now, and then we'll get that on. So bear with me for a sec. Okay, so this shift lever, I'm going to double check it, but it should be in park. Need my little pair of pliers. Okay, so I got my little blue handle pair of pliers here. This should be in park. Now remember, counterclockwise is park. And it is. Check the Jeep, make sure it's in park. Should be. Which it is. So now what should happen is this linkage, there's kind of a flat spot on it. So this should just rotate up and slide right over top. Loosen that off a little more. And there it goes. So you'll feel it. It'll catch. It's not rocket science, but with the Jeep in park, this cable's all the way out, which pushes that. So it should just slide right over top. Push it down until it's on the marks. And then that, if I remember, was 13. Okay, and that's literally it. Now getting it off, like I talked about, when you got a lot of rust and stuff on there, you might have to loosen that bolt right out and tap on it, you know, and kind of work it. But that was really it. So all the front part is done. So now I can start working on this, getting the transfer case up. I'm going to put a jacket under here again on some dunnage. Get this up, then I can work on getting the transfer case on. I got all the wiring on. I did that off camera, nothing major. I put the clips in to the wiring harness, got those buttoned up all out of the way. So now I'm just gonna keep working backwards. Okay, I might cut a whole bunch of that out because that was sketchy. But I managed to precariously get it up in there without getting my fingers caught in the scissors, or I still have all 10 of them. I didn't drop anything and break a wrist, but I did manage to get it all in and the studs all the way through. So now I can get the 4x4 shift linkage remounted and start getting this transfer case bolted up. Oh, that was fun. Nope. Now, I think what's left is the hard part. Okay, well, I got the starter in there. I don't know which bolts it is. I'm just going to put this in just to hold the starter in so it doesn't fall on my face. Okay. So now bell housing bolts. I got 2 of them in already. I started them. But now I got to kind of do this methodically because I can only get a torque wrench in on this side. So I got this torque wrench. I think I said 45 when I last said it. I don't know what I said, so I'm going to reiterate. It's 65. Okay. Well, let's try you. Clicking's good. Man, I prefer manual transmissions any day of the week. This is ridiculous. I could put a clutch in 1/10 of the time that this is taken. All right, I gave it the good old college try to clean this. It was pretty grimy. Now I cleaned it so good I can't remember which side's the inside. This side. So it goes in one way. The little lip tabby things come out and they clip around. And that should be it. I'll find the bolts for that. They should be short little guys. Not those ones though. Short ones, but fatter. Or big boned or chunky. Whatever newest politically correct term is. I'm gonna get fired for that one. Good, 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 good. I don't know why I'm doing that with my fingers when I got this brand new fancy shiny ratchet. Oh, that's why. Because I can't get in there. Okay, all this is done. Got the dust cover bolts in, like I showed. Got the starter bolts in. It's all mounted. Exhaust is all done. There's nothing really left here. So what I'm going to move to now is get the skid plate on. Okay. So I got the skid plate all mounted. I cleaned up the frame. I reformed it and put a couple layers of just black satin on it, the rust paint. And then I did do my little spacer thing to get it down. So there's about a 1/16 of an inch gap now on the skid plate. It's all bolted in, transmission's up. So just a quick glance on this, and yep, that pan's not going to fit. Not without some modifications. Let me get a couple bolts in this and I'll show you what I mean. Oh yeah, see if I can show you here. So you can see where the drain plug would be, this cross member. The way that angles down, I'm not going to have the clearance between this cross member and that temperature sensor. Just looking at it, if I do, it's going to be real tight. So I'm going to do a bunch of measurements and see if I can't take this pan off. It's moot anyway, but I definitely want to get one in here, but we'll see how it goes. So anyways, I'm going to keep putting this together, get some fluid in it, get it running, and yeah, we can see if we can wrap this up. Okay, so the good news is the only bolts that I have left are I want to call it flywheel, the flex plate bolts, and the filter nuts for inside on the valve body, and that's it. So that means that I've got everything in, I think. All right, there's crap everywhere. All right, I haven't cleaned up anything, but I think I'm gonna pause once I get this here. So into the installation guide, and this is kind of, like I said at the beginning, critical for the warranty. So seat the torque converter, that was done. Verify the engine block and bell housing surfaces are clean, which I did. Check the torque converter bolts to make sure they have not stretched. I actually put new ones in that they provided. Test all the sensor switches, I did. I ohmed them out. Everything looks good. Clean the drive shaft yoke and transfer case input shaft. I did, and I actually oiled it a little bit just to, just a tiny little skim, and then wiped it just so it flowed in super easy. I did replace the seal on the back of the tail shaft housing. That was kind of a bear because I don't have a seal press. So I didn't videotape that, but it's in and it's seated correctly. It's flush, so it's not in crooked at all. Put the vehicle on a lift. It's on jack stands. Remove the dipstick and insert a clean funnel. I did. I cleaned my funnel with brake clean, dried it out real good, and I put 4 quarts of fluid and start the engine. So that's where we're at right now. I got the 4 quarts in. So now we're just going to get ready to start. Then it wants to verify the fluid to make sure it's least to the full cold mark. Now, when you pour a bunch of transmission fluid down that dipstick tube, obviously it coats it. So when you pull the dipstick out, it's not wholly accurate. I'm going to double check it just to make sure where it kind of, obviously the vehicle needs to be running, but I put the 4 quarts in. So that's the key thing. So, and then add fluid if needed. So, and it gives you a chart on the dipstick tube. So the cold and then the hot, and then your mid-range, and it gives you, I believe, the temperatures. Yeah. So at 70 degrees, which we're, I think, at 80 something now outside here, but I should be up on that, on the upper cold mark. There's an add and then there's a upper dot. So I got to do that. Then we're going to run through the gears for 5 seconds in each, put it back in park, and then let the vehicle run until we get up to 165 to 190. Now I do have a scan tool that does live data, so I should be able to read that transmission temperature because I couldn't install my fancy gauge. So, and then it's put the transmission into drive, allow for light throttle up, shift all the way through to the highest gear. Use brakes to stop the wheels, return the level to park, recheck the fluid level. So now you're going up to the hot, obviously, and then road test the vehicle and recheck the fluid level. So we're on the final stretch. I double checked all the bolts. I double checked all the wiring. I put that breather hose on the transfer case. Breather hoses on the transmission. They're both tied up to the front here. So yeah, everything is kind of ready to go. So let's hook up the battery and see where we end up here. I don't remember if I cleared the DTCs. I should probably check that before I get too far. Okay, it looks like I'm on the full cold now. So it told me to put in 4. I put in 4 3/4. Yeah, there we go. I'm right full of the cold. So that's about where we need to be. All right, good evening. The sun is down and it's dark, so pardon me for the artificial light. I got everything kind of finalized. So where I left you was topping the transmission up while it was cool or colder. I got that all done. I ran it through the gears, 5 seconds in each. You know, obviously up on jack stands and let the tires kind of spin. And then I put it in drive and actually let it shift up through the gears very slowly. So, and everything went great. Waited till it got up to temp, and then I obviously topped it up to the hot level. I ended up adding almost 6 quarts in total. So I did the initial 4 and then I added another almost 2 full ones to get it to where it needs to be. And then I took it on a little road test, brought it back, checked it again, and then let it sit for about an hour and a half. And then I actually went cruising and took it down the freeway and just around the neighborhood here for about another 10 or 15 miles, and it's running great. Shifting was a little janky when it first got going, but once, you know, I did a kind of tour around and did some stop and go, it settled right in. Shifting between first, second, third, fourth, it's the only way you can tell now is with the RPM change. So it's running excellent. I'm really happy with it. The roadblock that I ran into is obviously with the temperature sensor. I wanted to put it in the pan, but ran into that cross-member obstruction and so on and so forth. So I did some further research on it and actually phoned a couple friends, and there's some mixed opinions on where to put that. Some say put it in the pan because it gives you a relative temperature of the transmission, and some say put it in the cooler line, the feed line to the cooler from the transmission. So, because that's going to be the hottest that transmission is going to be. So I think I'm going to end up putting it in the line, because if that's the hottest and that's running in the high range, you know you're kind of in trouble. So I think I'm going to go down that road. I just got to get some fittings and figure out the best way to put it, whether to put it at the cooler or right on the outlet of the transmission. I'm still spitballing how I'm going to do that. And then that's pretty much it. I'm going to take it to and from work for the rest of the week. I do have a little road trip to do later in the week. You know, a couple hours away, so it'll give me a little bit of highway driving and so on and so forth, and we'll really kind of shake it down and see if there's any issues. I do have the battery hold down that I got to put in it, and the fan control little relay thing. I only have 1 fan speed, so I got to change out that resistor. I do have a new one here. I just got to pop it in. It's a 5-minute thing. So I think that's going to do it. I'm really excited. We're on the home stretch of this one now, and now I got to turn some attention to the other ones again. It's a never-ending battle. It just, with 3 Jeeps, it just keeps going in circles. So I appreciate all your time. Like, comment. I've never done a transmission like this before. To change it out, this was the first time I have done that. I've done clutches in the manuals. But this was kind of a learning experience for me. So if there's something that you saw that maybe you'd done differently or maybe better, let me know. I'm always eager to learn new things. And if you got something out of it, great. All right. With that, we'll see you on the next one.